Hello, welcome to Microsoft Excel with EJD. In this video, we'll be talking about scenario manager for what if analysis in Excel. So in Excel, we have um, a group of analysis that are called the what if analysis. And one of the tools used for what if analysis is called the scenario manager. So after this one, we'll be looking at other tools that play into what if analysis. And of course, as the name implies, it's more like you are trying to check out different scenarios that are possible in a particular situation to see the kind of thing you can get under such scenarios. So what if we change this to this? What are we going to get? That's the kind of thing here. So, Scenario Manager is a powerful feature in Microsoft Excel's What If Analysis toolkit that allows us to create, manage, and compare multiple sets of input values called scenarios for the same model or worksheet. It is particularly useful when you want to examine how changing multiple variables at once affects your outcomes, such as profit, revenue, or cost. So now the first question is what is a scenario? Since we're talking about scenario manager, so a scenario is simply a named set of input values, changing cells that Excel can substitute into your worksheet to project different outcomes. For example, you could create best case, worst case, and most likely scenarios to evaluate potential business strategies. So you're trying to check out a new business strategy. You're looking at different circumstances, different values that can influence your results. Then why do we use scenario managers, right? Scenario manager is ideal when you need to analyze various combinations of inputs and their effect on outputs without manually changing the values each time. It is limited to 32 changing cells, but can be a valuable decision support tool when combined with summary reports. Okay, so if you want to use Scenario Manager, right, the first thing you want to do is to prepare your worksheets. So you design your worksheet with formulas that depend on a certain input cells, e.g., cost per unit, sales volume, discount rate, and all that. Then you label the changing cells clearly for ease of use, and then you can go ahead and use scenario manager. So what I'm just going to do now is to use, so I've created this worksheet that I called scenario manager, and here we are dealing with a budgeting situation and we want to look at some possibilities. So let's assume that um, this is you have a yearly budget of $75,000 and you also want to budget for the whole year, right? So let's assume that your housing for a whole year is $18,000, your feeding is $16,800, transportation is 6,000, clothing is 5,000, savings is 10,000, investment is 10,000, and giving is $7,500, like that. So, and then in that case, you have the total to be $73,300, and then you have some extra of 1,700. That means that extra you can choose to say, or maybe you just want to, you want to do whatever you like with that because it's you have taken care of the things that really, really matter, right? So you can actually take care of that extra. All right. You can use that extra for whatever you like. So, and one benefit, okay, well, I think I'll come to the benefits of scenario analysis later. I mean, after running through this process. So let's go. So with this now, this is a particular scenario of the body. Let's assume that this is the original scenario. Now, so you look at all these lists because these are the input values now. These are the items that lead up to the board that make up the budget, right? So if you click on this side now, you can see all you have is A4 because your cursor is inside A4. So I just did that so that you can pay attention because very soon, what we want to do is then if you go back, if you go to data, all right, and you go to what if analysis, so to get to scenario manager, you click on data and then you see what if analysis and you then see scenario manager. So for this scenario manager now, you can now click add. For instance, if you click add here and then you say you want to have normally to create a scenario, actually, the first thing you want to do before you even go here is to highlight the inputs that can change in values. You know, so you have highlighted that. You come to, of course, data for what if analysis, scenario manager, and then you click on add. So you can see it has highlighted B4 to B10. So let's say this is the original budget. Okay, so that's the original budget if you like. So if you click on OK, then it brings all the lists. So that's the original budget you have. So since you are creating that as original, I just say OK. So I've created that's it. That's one scenario. Then but then if we look at that now, okay, um, okay, let me delete this and do it again. Yeah, I've deleted that. So I'm adding something and I'm calling it original. Okay. And it's talking about the values from B4 to B10. So you can see it's showing us B4 to B10. And I say okay now. And then you see all these values are B4, B5, B6, B7, B8. So, but what happens if the sheet is so large that you don't really know what the actual values are? So all these B4 to B8 may not really be helpful. So what we can do in that scenario is to okay, I'll still go ahead and add the original for now, yes. So I add the original, okay. I add the original and say okay. And then of course we need all the values here are all the values we have, and that's the original. So I just say okay and say uh then I can close, all right? I can just close that. Now we can go again and create other scenarios. Say just like we saw before, let's look at lowest budget, for instance, let's say lowest possible budget, you know, like worst case scenario. So we can just say we can come here now and then do add another one. Okay, well, before we go to that, I wanted to talk about instead of having all the B4 to B10, right? You can actually have the actual names of these things. And the way to do that is, you highlight the item names and the values attached to them. And once you do that, then you come to the same data and then you see, yeah, you come to formulas actually, and you can see create from selection. So if you click on create from selection, so it tells you we are creating from all this from this left column. So these names will actually guide us. So we click this now and we just say okay. All right. So if you click here now, you now discover that all the clothing, feeding, giving, they are all here now. So the list has been created. So it means that by the time you go to create the next scenario, you can actually find something helpful. I mean, you can find all the actual names. So we go to data now. I want to go and create a worst case scenario. So I go for scenario manager now. I click this. Then so I want to create a new situation. So I say worst case, just like what we saw there, worst case. And for the worst case now, well, mm, okay, let's say minimum, right? Instead of saying worst case, because worst case might mean getting too close to the budget. So let's say minimum. So let me just say minimum. And now you see it is still B4 to B10. But by the time I click OK, it now brings the actual list instead of the B4, the B dollar, $4 and all that. It won't bring that. It brings the actual names now. So if I say minimum case now, instead of renting for $18,000, maybe we want our annual rent to be say just 12,000. Okay, 12,000. Then our feeding, we want that to be like 10,000. So that's like some minimum case. Transportation, we want to cut that down to 3,000. Okay, and clothing, we want clothing to be just 2,500. All right. And we want savings to be like 7,550, 7,550. Then we still have we have giving. Giving is now like say okay, let's say investment. Investment is like 8,000. Okay. And then we have giving to be 6,850. 6,850, and then we click on OK. All right. Now you see we have the original, we have the minimum case. So we can yet add yet another one. We can add the maximum case, for instance. So we say maximum case, and that will be, of course, we know we don't want to exceed 75,000, but let's see how we move to do that, to make that possible. So for the maximum case now, we click OK. And then for housing, now the original case was 18,000. So maybe we want to For maximum case, we don't want to go below. Don't in the original case now we had 1,700 to spare, but in this case, let's see how much. So we don't want to exceed that 1,007 extra, right? So we have to distribute that carefully. So let's say for this first one, we can go as high as 18,300. Okay, so we have one four left. Maybe for this, we can do 16,900. Okay, so that's 400 gone, right? And let's say here we can do 6,000. We can do 6,200. Then for food, we can do 6,300. Okay, 5,300. Then for savings, we leave it just the way it is. For investments, we can have 10,500. And for giving, we leave it at say 8,000, okay? 8,000. And we say, okay. So we have another case created. So now that you have all of this in place, so if you want to, you can, go and see the different scenarios. That's why it's called scenario manager. You want to see the different possibilities. So just, of course, data, if it's not already there, click data, then you go to what if analysis, click scenario manager. And then, of course, if you click on the original case, you have that. But we've seen the original case is what we currently have. So if you click on minimum now, all right, and show, okay. So the minimum case now tells you that uh, so I can close this. So for the minimum case now, we have an extra B1. So you can see the total. Well, how come the minimum case okay, I think something is not right here, but it's okay. Let's just use this. Use what we have. So maybe I added an extra zero somewhere. That's why we have this particular situation. But it's okay. So I mean, for based on whatever input I had there. Oh, transportation cannot be more than housing. I think maybe I wanted transportation to be 3,000. Let me go back and correct that. So scenario manager, I click this. That's even a good case. So I can use that to explain edit. So edit now. So, and then I say, okay. And for transportation, it's not 30,000, it's actually 3,000. And that's okay. So if I now show it, now you see we have 20, we can save a lot. We can save 25,100 as extra. And that's really cool. All right. So, and then what if I want to go back and I want to see the maximum situation? So now I'm showing the scenarios one after the other. So the maximum situation is here. So if I click on this and I say show, all right. So for the maximum case, so you can see that we have only extra of 200. So that means that it is still red, right? So I can still edit this because we don't want to, of course, as much as possible, we don't want to owe, right? So it means I need to shave off 200, at least break even if possible. So I want to go back and edit the maximum case now. And here I say, okay. So I need to save at least 200. So let me take let me say take clothing to 5,100. I've already saved that. I've saved 200 automatically, but of course I still want to save more as much as possible. So let's say investment, or let's take investment to 10,000 that it was actually before. All right, and I will say okay. So now if you show that, you see we are saving 500 in this situation. So you can show the different cases. So I go back again and show the different situations again. So scenario manager, the original, that's like the average, so to speak. So I click on this. So you see, I have an extra of $1,700. So what if I want to go for the minimum situation? That's irreducible minimum or something like that. So I click on that and you see I saved a lot, 25,100. So if I can make this happen, that would be so good. So even the extra, I mean, this extra is beyond what I can just throw away. I can even use it for more investment or more savings, right? So let's look at the worst case scenario. That's when you're spending as much as possible from the budget. Like maybe you're living in a very expensive area. So you go to this scenario manager now and you check out the maximum and you show. You see, in that case, you're just saving $500. Now, it even gets better that I've explained that instead of just seeing the cell numbers, you can actually save it the way I showed you before by going to formulas, and ever and doing create from formula from selection. We've done that already. Now you can do something beautiful again. You can go to of course still data, and then we go to what if analysis, still under scenario manager, and you want to have a summary of all the three scenarios side by side. That's where it's really beautiful. So you can click on this. All right. So yeah, what do you want to see? Is it total you're interested in, or which results do you want to compare? So here we are comparing extra. So it takes the last one by default. So we want to compare extra. We just say okay. And with this now, it automatically spews out this result, and you can see everything at a glance. And that's the actual beauty of Scenario Manager. So you see for current values now, that's the current values are what you currently have there. That's the maximum I just viewed. So you see the original case. That's like somewhere in between. Minimum, if I can pull this off, I will save as much as $25,100 dollars. And then for the maximum situation is I have 500, just to play around with after taking care of all the necessities. So that's the beautiful thing about Scenario Manager. I can come back here again, and maybe what I want to see is maybe so I can maybe what I want to see is the total at the end of the day. So I click on that total, and I can go back to my Scenario Manager, and I say summary. When I click on summary, you can have scenario summary, or you can have scenario pivot table. Let me do scenarios. Okay, since I've done scenario summary for extra, let me do scenario pivot table for the for okay, total now. All right, so I've chosen that now to be B12. So by default it takes this last value, so I just say okay. Now, okay, this is still scenario summary. Okay, I want a scenario pivot table. Let me come back for that. Okay, so I go again. First of all, let me change it back to the to original, what we started with. So I click this and I close. I didn't have to close the book. Then I go back again, and then don't forget the budget is 7,500. And then for summary now, summary that will compare everything, and if the focus on B is on B12. That's the total, and we go for scenario pivot table, and I say okay. Yeah, I didn't do this the other time. So this just summarizes everything for us. That okay, these are the possibilities. You can have the maximum money amount you can spend close to the budget is 74,500. The minimum is 49,900, and the original is 73,300. But you can see that the summary gives more details than the pivot table. So let's go back one more time and do that. All right. So I go for summary, and I want to focus on the total instead of the extra now. So I do the scenario pivot table again, scenario summary, and I click OK. And then it spews this out. So you can see instead of the extra now, it's showing me the total amount. So for the original budgeting, I go as close as 73,300. Minimum, I go 49,900, and maximum 74,500. So I can use this to now make my decision that, okay, I mean, you can create more scenarios, right? Depending on what you want, you can create more scenarios, and then you can use this to look at several possibilities. So this is the you can see scenario manager is very interesting for what if analysis. So the idea of what if analysis is that, okay, what if I want to cut down my housing cost to this, my transportation to that, what do I get? So here we have three situations that we have been able to compare. So with this, I come to the end of this interesting video. Let me know how helpful this is for you, and if there's something you'd like me to try out, I'll be very glad to do that. If you have subscribed already, thank you so much. If you haven't, please go ahead and subscribe so that you can and hit the notification bell, right? So that you can always get alerted each time a new video is released. You can click on join to become a member of my channel. You see the possibility of becoming a member of the channel, with different levels of benefits, some perks attached to every level of membership. And don't forget to like this video, share it, make comments, so that we can have engagement, so that more people can have access to this video and other content I have on this channel. Till I come your way again, keep doing data right. Bye.